Shalom Chavrim, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. What you're seeing on your screen here, this video here, I don't know exactly how old it is, whether it be a week or a couple of weeks old there. You're seeing Petro Poroshenko. He is there with John McCain, Senator from the United States, as well as Lindsey Graham. They are there inside of Ukraine. And of course, my wife sent this to me after she listened to it in the Russian language. This is what they're speaking now. And Petro Poroshenko is talking about how that they have Ukraine's back, that they're going to help them there. But what I want you to really hear is what John McCain and Lindsey Graham are about to say in this broadcast here to the Ukrainian people in regards to Russia. And of course, more of our broadcast is going to be dealing on the latest breaking news that is happening right now after Ms. Hale spoke with the United Nations there on behalf of the Trump administration.
That you will fight for your homeland. Your fight is our fight. 2017 will be the year of offense. All of us will go back to Washington and we will push the case against Russia.
Ми всі повернемося до Вашингтону і ми будемо відстоювати санкції проти Росії.
Enough of Russian aggression.
Досить вже російської агресії.
It is time for them to pay a heavier price.
Час вже щоб вони заплатили важчу ціну.
Our fight is not with the Russian people, but with Putin.
Ми боремося не з російським народом, але з Путіним.
Our promise to you is to take your cause to Washington.
Наша обіцянка це те, що ми вашу боротьбу доведемо до Вашингтону.
Inform the American people of your bravery.
Проінформуємо американський народ про вашу відважність.
And make the case against Putin to the world.
І покажемо про докази проти Путіна усьому світу.
I believe you will win. I am convinced you will win, and we will do everything we can to provide you with what you need to win.
Я вірю в те, що ви виграєте.
Now, I don't know if you guys were able to capture exactly what Lindsey Graham was saying, but they were speaking about an offensive measure. And that they would go back to Washington and they would express exactly what is going on and would relay this to the American public, or not just American public, but to those in Washington there, and that President Putin is where the problem lies. And they're saying enough Russian aggression. The entire world is turned against Russia. And quite frankly, I really still have yet to see what Russia did. Where is this blame game on Russia? What did they actually do? Was it the Russians that started the coup inside of Ukraine? Was it Russia that was involved in this? Was it Russia that started the troops fighting against Bashar al-Assad inside of Syria, when a nation that was a peaceful nation where the different religions actually could somewhat coexist together? Where is all this blame coming from? Yes, Russia did get involved in Crimea, of course, at the invitation of the former president of Ukraine, Yanukovych, who invited him there to try to help deal with the rising protest. All right, so this is where the problems come in. Now, we were really hoping that President Trump was going to, one, end the sanctions with Russia, and also look beyond all the media propaganda against Russia that has been overwhelming, that has been proven by Americans, not just one, not just two, but many Americans have proven that Russia was not the aggressor in the case of Syria, nor in the case of Ukraine. But yet they're continually to be blamed, and we really felt confident that President Trump would also see the same thing. Even President Trump, during running for his presidency there, had stated that he felt like that Russia could keep Ukraine, especially since the fact that Ukraine was part of the Russian territory for more than 200 years before they allowed the administration duties be handed over to Ukraine during the time Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. But because there are so many Russian ethnic people living inside of Crimea, Russia had to do something or either watch their people be all slaughtered. And this is what we're seeing once again happening in Ukraine right now, is the war is really going spiraling completely out of control. Even the OSCE is leaving Ukraine as a result of that. Now let me share with you, this is Nikki Haley's comment there that she made here at the United Nations. I want you to hear what she had to say. First time she spoke at the United Nations, and her comments regarding Russia in this case here. Listen to this.
Time to waste. I consider it unfortunate that the occasion of my first appearance here is one in which I must condemn the aggressive actions of Russia. It is unfortunate because it is a replay of far too many instances over many years in which United States representatives have needed to do that. It should not have to be that way. We do want to better our relations with Russia. However, the dire situation in eastern Ukraine is one that demands clear and strong condemnation of Russian actions. The sudden increase in fighting in eastern Ukraine has trapped thousands of civilians and destroyed vital infrastructure. And the crisis is spreading, endangering many thousands more. This escalation of violence must stop. The United States stands with the people of Ukraine, who have suffered for nearly 3 years under Russian occupation and military intervention. Until Russia and the separatists it supports respect Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, this crisis will continue. Eastern Ukraine, of course, is not the only part of the country suffering because of Russia's aggressive actions. The United States continues to condemn and call for an immediate end to the Russian occupation of Crimea. Crimea is a part of Ukraine. Our Crimea-related sanctions will remain in place until Russia returns control over the peninsula to Ukraine.
Very, very sad and very disappointing indeed. Even as an American, it's disappointing for me to see that this is what has happened with the Trump administration, that they are now calling that it is a Russian aggression, and because clearly the evidence points the other way. The evidence that Russia was not the aggressor from the very beginning is the case. And even now they're talking about that it's Russia's fault. We see even here Yahoo News, Ukraine appeals for help against Russia as fighting flares. Every documentation, even here on Israeli News Live, we shared with you the information as it broke that the Ukrainian government under Petro Poroshenko had launched a major offensive against the people of Donbass and Donetsk, what they call the DPR, the Donetsk People's Republic there, which are the separatists that are fighting for independence. Now, Russia has not been willing to accept them to be independent as an independent state because Russia knows that that is not correct and it should not be done so. Putin did however, has pushed for Crimea with their own referendum, voting to go back into the Soviet Union, or excuse me, former Russia as they were. And even in 1991, long before any of this ever began, the people of Crimea had voted to be back as part of Russia. A lot of times people totally ignore this. But showing you some of the evidence here, Murad Gazdiev, who is an RT reporter, he's a reporter, plus he works in studio at RT there. He has shared quite a bit of footage here. This is the people being rescued here. That are vulnerable, that are being rescued by the DPR. They're trying to get the people out of Donetsk from all this fighting. And, you know, again, it's so clearly done on the news there. It has been clear everywhere that this latest aggression, once again, it's not done by Russia. It's not done by the separatists living in this area. It has been done clearly by Ukraine under Petro Poroshenko. And so it's very sad that we're seeing all of this. Murad also shared some of these images here, just the shelling that he has saw there. Some of this even with flesh. There was this one photo here, chunks of flesh. People have been bombed and targeted and everything else. This one here was very interesting as well that Murad caught. This is a local in Donetsk. She's very upset with OSCE because they're not telling the world what's really happening. They're not telling them that they're bombing the neighborhoods there in Donetsk, the Ukraine government. And so she's pouring her heart out, trying to get him to tell the world the truth about what's really happening. And unfortunately, these guys here, even the OSCE, they're under the pressure from the United Nations on what they report and how they report it. So it makes it very, very difficult for any of this to be gotten out the correct way, and for anybody to know what's going on. Stalkerzone.org also showing this aerial photo here. You can see the apartment building here that they took there that during the night last night was hit by all the different artillery shells that were coming in, and because it's right here on the front lines there. So it is these civilians there that are being targeted in this, and it is a shame that that is happening. The New York Times even reporting Trump's UN envoy Nikki Haley condemns Russian aggression actions in Ukraine. You know, and so we're already starting to see, again, more propaganda. And of course, no doubt, it's a Ukrainian soldier that is dead as a result, because it's not like the Donetsk People's Republic are not firing back. Sure they are. It is a war, and it is a war zone. This is a Turkish paper, too, when they talk about, because I have seen where both sides accuse each other that they're firing from the actual civilian populations. And this is a Turkish newspaper that is talking about Ukraine here, and as you can see, the photo they're using right there, this is on the Ukrainian side there with the tanks right there in the middle of town. Of course they are. In fact, we read one earlier today where it spoke about the 41 tanks that are up there on the contact line, and we had reported that back in July. So it's just a mess. I hate to see it. I hate to see war, period. I mean, I don't want to see Ukrainians die either. I don't want to see the war between Ukraine and the eastern Ukrainians. I don't want to see the war at all. It's very, very sad. Even the same thing in Syria. We don't want to see any of the people in Syria that are being caught up in the war on both sides, let alone the women and children that are all being murdered and killed through these wars, the elderly as well, on both sides being killed as a result of Grad launching rockets, 152 millimeter shells. All these things constantly just pounding down on these people. And in another serious situation that's spiraling out of control as well. This is in Romania, as you can see here. This is some roughly 200,000 Romanians that are protesting against the government because their government's leader is talking about lifting a law that had put so many of the corrupt politicians in prison, and as a result, it will release many of these people that were very corrupt in the government. And Romanians are very concerned that these people are going to end up back in power once again. And so just an incredible number of protesters out. They say that it's much more than what they had during the collapse of the Soviet Union. But some estimated 200,000 protesters were actually out in force in Romania. Third night in a row, in fact, that this has actually happened. This is reported on Euronews. Anyway, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. As I said, very troubling situation we see going on. And of course, John McCain and Lindsey Graham having tremendous influence there with President Donald Trump as they came back, especially Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is very much pro-Israel activist as well. And as a result of him being pro-Israel activist, Donald Trump being pro-Israel as well, it makes them more in like-mindedness. But it is certainly seemingly to change Donald Trump's stand when it comes to Ukraine. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Shalom.